and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Estate World Podcast. All right, I think we're live on Facebook today. This is Scott Picard, and we are here with the Real Estate World Podcast, reporting live again from the bunker here in central Minnesota. And I want to start the show by apologizing. You know, it's been a while since we've been doing these live on Facebook, and we have our reasons for this, none of which I'm going to disclose today. But I just want to suffice to say that I am glad we are back. Along with me is my chief producer
officer CPO.
What is that? Producer?
The chief producer officer.
Chief producing officer. My minion in chief, Jeremy, who happens to be my brother. And yeah, I wanna start by just saying, Jeremy, I apologize for all of the insults and degrading comments I've made over the past years. You truly are appreciated. But I also want to follow that with my...
He means the past week.
The past week. But I also want to reaffirm my commitment to more of the same, but more, just more, because they won't be the same insults and degrading comments in 2021. So...
But to make it up, there's a trip to Cancun that nobody wanted to go to Cancun with you.
Yes, there will be a trip to Cancun. I will cash in that companion airline ticket I get with my Delta Sky Miles card, and I will put your name on that. So with great punishment comes great reward.
Worth it.
So, yeah, we are the Real Estate World Podcast. We are the little show with courage. And our mission is to give you the very biased facts and help you distill the fiction into reality. And for many people, reality is tough to face. For me, at times, it also very difficult to face. But this year has been tough. I wanna cover a few things today. We don't have a ton of time, but this year has been very, very difficult for a lot of people. Hold on, I've got to change the privacy settings on this really quick. My Facebook got all screwed up. I kind of did a Facebook fast for the last 6 months, and for a lot of reasons, I was getting a little frustrated, maybe even a little bitter. I think I was following the tutelage advice, the behavior of Jesse, and I think it was starting to wear on me. So anyway, I decided to shirk off those feelings of insecurity, those feelings of bitterness, and get back to it. So we did do a podcast episode last week, which we posted on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you get podcasts. And we talked about a myriad of issues. But today I really want to cover 3 things. Number one is the pork bill that was recently passed by Congress that is masked as a COVID relief bill. And we're going to deep dive into the worst aspects of that and how I look at that as being a slap in the face to all Americans. There's that. Second, I want to talk a little bit about the recent proposed settlement between the Department of Justice and NAAR, the National Association of Realtors, and a few ongoing lawsuits that are happening. And then finally, last but not least, we want to cover what is the most annoying events, plural, of 2020. And I know I really want to start there, but I think we're going to finish with that. So with that, Jeremy, I know you've been following the porculus, i.e. stimulus bill with bated breath. or bad breath, which is it? I'm not sure. But what do you think? Like, what was this bill? You know, you have a few facts. How big was it? How much money? You know, give the layperson just a brief summary of what happened there.
Well, the relief bill, there's two parts. I believe 900 billion was allocated as aid, and then there was a second part, 1.4 trillion dollars. I guess one was assigned as a COVID relief bill. I'm not sure the other. It seems pretty ridiculous as to how much is actually being allocated to foreign countries.
Right.
Some are in the hundreds of millions, others in the tens of millions, and others are over a trillion.
Well,
No,
it's interesting.
it's in the billions. So it's
It's interesting you say that because I had a friend post something on Facebook this morning. It was kind of a good summary of COVID relief that's going to foreign countries. And I'll read off some of the numbers here. Well, before I do it, people are going to say, well, what does this have to do with real estate? Well, it has a lot to do with real estate. It has a lot to do with life, okay, because this is money we don't have, which is supposed to be going to people who need it most in the United States of America, where rumor has it that's where we currently reside. And if you're going to take taxpayer money, and that's money from humans that live in the U.S., to help other humans that live in the U.S., it's assumed that money is going to go to the people that need it most. So when you see 1.3 billion going to Egypt, 700 million going to Sudan, 453 million going to our friends in the Ukraine, 135 million to Burma, 130 million to Nepal, 500 million to Israel, 85 million to Cambodia, 25 million to Pakistan, and then 1.4 billion going to Asia RIA, which I looked up what that meant earlier today, and I honestly forgot it. I don't know that that's that important, other than that's $1.4 billion. Now, I don't know how many Americans are living in these countries right now. Apparently, the numbers must be significant for this COVID relief to be reaching them. These dollar amounts are massive. Now, the good news is the American people get $600. And, insert your own adjective to describe how that looks. But I think there's a real – I feel like the American people are the butt of a bad joke here on this COVID relief. Understand, folks, this is money that we don't have that presumably is supposed to be spent to stimulate the economy, get people much-needed relief who aren't working, get people whose businesses have been forced to close down money so they can save those businesses, and presumably pick up the pieces so that we can keep the economic engine going so we don't make the solution worse than the disease. Now, what isn't being reported also is the fact that we have at least 2 vaccines being shipped right now. I mean, we should have it. We should be living in this COVID relief.
There's a third on the coattails.
Yeah, a third on the
first two.
coattails, possibly a fourth, depending on where you get your news and who you're listening to. But presumably over millions of doses have already been shipped. Tens of millions of people have already had COVID, at least if you're going to trust the fear porn being put out by the media right now. Tens of millions of people have already had COVID, so they've developed a natural immunity. This is a COVID relief bill that should have been out before the election, and some would argue was being held up by political brinksmanship. So they're late to the game, but better late than never, especially if you're those out there who are in a vulnerable position. Like, there's nobody who's going to deny there are people suffering from this. What our issue is, or my personal issue is with the fact that COVID has been turned into a political football where targeted relief bills could have been and should have been passed quickly back in August and September to help the people in the United States who need this money. So you say, well, why do you care how much money they keep printing? Well, this is eventually going to lead to massive inflation, higher interest rates across the board. And when you have inflation, the buying power of a dollar earned decreases dramatically. Check out the Weimar Republic in Germany. Heck, if you need a more recent example, look at Argentina, Brazil, Vietnam, Venezuela.
And Tim Pool, if you listen to him, he's got some great stories of filling up sacks of money to go buy a loaf of bread. And that's
literally wheelbarrows of money.
I mean, that's not recent memory. That's somebody has lived that years ago. Well, living it now.
Exactly. And this isn't an attack on any of the people of these countries. They are victims of the system. They are victims of the so-called leaders that are running their economies in the ground. And we're seeing some of this play out here in the United States. I remember being in Vietnam about a decade ago, and we went on a tour with a local gentleman. And what's great about doing these private tours, they cost maybe the equivalent a full day of for maybe $100 a person. And I know that's not chump change to some people, but really when you're on vacation, I always say when you're on vacation, the currency you are trading in is time, because it's so hard for us to let go of our lives and go to a place, as far away as say Thailand or Cambodia, Australia. When you get there, for me, it was always hard to spend the extra money, but I always convinced myself that it was good to spend the money because you're trading it for experiences, which you have for a lifetime. You can always go, if you're an able-bodied, hardworking person, you can make more money when you get back. You can work extra hours, whatever. But I may never get back to Vietnam. You always say, oh, when we come back. It's pretty rare that people go back. So this gentleman, get back to the point, he told us that the currency in Vietnam, they had such terrible inflation that it was being devalued by 50% every year. So the currency in Vietnam was the dong. Insert your own joke. But the dong, they had $200,000 Vietnam dong notes. It was like when I was in college, I was in Italy when they had the lira. Boy, you talk about playing with monopoly money. I mean, the lira, they had massive inflation in Italy too. We were walking around with $20,000 or 20,000 lira notes. This is before the transition to the euro. So anyway, what's my point? The point is this. Stimulus is good in times of economic crisis. And many people can argue that some of these crises were perpetuated by poor decisions by our leaders. Whatever. I'm not here to argue that. I'm just saying the outcome of this, if we're going to have the stimulus, why not give it to the people of this country who need it most? Why are we?
Well, right. If you're forcing your population to borrow their own money from their future, you shouldn't be giving that money as aid to other countries.
Absolutely.
Basically, why would I borrow my own money from the future to give it to somebody in the Ukraine?
Well, exactly. And here's the problem. They're being dishonest with us. Like back in the days, they eliminated earmarks from the bills that Congress is passing, okay? Well, the nice thing about earmarks, about the only good thing about them, was that there had to be a sponsor for each earmark. So then you would actually see who was putting the pork in the bill as an amendment. Like if there wasn't much good that came out of a lot of this. They were basically payoffs and bribes to Congress people to get their vote to support a bill. And they said, okay, we're going to eliminate earmarks. So here's what happens now. You get 20, 30, 40, 50 people in a room creating the sausage with no daylight and no accountability. So now it's just a bill that you don't know.
Well, instead of a sponsor, now it's anonymous.
Anonymous. Yeah. Who, it reminds me of the turkey that Ebenezer Scrooge purchased for Bob Cratchit's family on Christmas Day. Do you remember that? Who's it from? Anonymous. Okay. There's no correlation.
Depending on which version you've seen or watched.
Okay.
I mean, that it's not anonymous in the Muppets Christmas Carol, which I've seen 6 times this year.
I think this was the George C. Scott version of the Christmas Carol. So, some of my favorites in favorite pork. Let's see. There's billions to foreign countries. 40 million to the Kennedy Center. Again, I think they were the recipients of about 75 million in the first porkulus bill. Who's not for the Kennedys, right? 200 million so that federal HIV/AIDS workers overseas can buy cars and car insurance. I'll leave it to you to decide if that's
COVID related.
Yeah, I mean, many worthy causes, I'm sure, but let's be honest. Is that a COVID relief item?
Oh,
Jeremy, I hear something in the background. Is that COVID related?
That's an advertisement.
Could you please silence that? Anyway, we're doing a thing today where we're doing a live stream on Facebook. We're recording the podcast episode. We have some technical issues that we're working out too, because doing 2 channels of audio in the same room on Facebook, we're getting a little feedback here. And then, of course, Jeremy decides to visit. I'm not going to say
Pornhub.
Yeah, you porn or something, and get this. Let's see, 700 to 135 million to Burma, 4 billion for Navy weapons procurement. Oh my gosh, procurement. 2 billion for Space Force and 2 billion for Air Force missiles. That sounds like, again, maybe they need the money, but is this COVID relief? 208 million to upgrade the Census Bureau's computer systems, which couldn't have waited until the next count in 2030.
10 million is allocated to gender programs in Pakistan. Oh, hold on. Not less than 10 million.
Not less.
Not less than 10 million.
Sounds like COVID to me. Let's see. And keep in mind, all this money being sent out, the American people are getting $600. Now, I understand a big part of this is the Paycheck Protection Program. There are a couple good things in there. There's increased unemployment benefits for those who need it. What else do we have here? Boy, there's just so much to unpack in so little time that I can't even. It says the $600 for every American would equal a $198 billion bill. Yet the bill is more than $900 billion, and it's over 5,000 pages.
Yeah, it's 5,600 pages, which also includes $1 billion to the Smithsonian. $1 billion.
Sri Lanka, up to $15 million for the refurbishing of a high-endurance cutter. $15 million to... Oh, that's a boat. A cutter is a boat. So $200 million is direct... $200 billion is direct stimulus checks, which is the $600. What I don't understand and haven't seen yet is this $600. The first time there was a stimulus check, that was actually an advance on your tax refund for 2020. So my question is this $600, is it going to be handled the same way? So it wasn't like new money. It was like a tax rebate, if you will, or it applied against the money you may have been getting back or overpaid in taxes for 2020. So we'll need to get clarification on that. Basically, I'm kind of disgusted by this, and I would ask everyone go to a search engine like DuckDuckGo if you want to find out some of the facts related to this, because the problem is you get dramatically different results in your search if you go to Google versus a site that isn't filtering and weighting some of the articles that are more favorable to this. And trust me, I did the side
Or
by
we just say
side.
censoring.
So you could say censoring.
I don't
and
know.
I did the side by
I
side.
don't know if I'll get kicked off of Facebook again.
Yeah, we'll
but-
probably get kicked off. Probably someone knocking at our door right now. Anyway, so what else is in this? Is there some good stuff? PPP, tax forgiveness, allows for deductibility of business expenses paid for with forgiven PPP loans. That's the Paycheck Protection Plan. That was a forgivable loan, small businesses, and believe me, the definition of small has been distorted here terribly. But that's a different.
It includes the LA Lakers.
Included the LA Lakers, Harvard. It was madness. Anyway, let's see here. Broadband expansion. Again, I don't know if that's COVID related. $3.2 billion for an emergency broadband benefit for low-income Americans. The 3 martini lunch.
I mean, that could be considered with kids learning from home.
Yeah.
I guess you can stretch that one. The Smithsonian or Kennedy Center, or gender studies in Pakistan. I don't know how that's related to
let's
COVID
talk about
in the
gender
United
studies.
States.
Let's talk about gender studies in Pakistan. You have up to 4 wives in Pakistan. I have a feeling they're laughing at us right now. The 3 martini deduction provides for the tax deduction of 100% of business meals, up for 50% for 2021 and 2022. Wow.
What?
Yeah, that's a real thing. That is a real thing. Provides funding for HUD's fair housing grants, activities, and assistance increased by 2.3 million. That's probably a good thing. They extended the eviction moratorium, so hopefully they're going to provide more money for rental assistance. It looks like $25.8 billion for tenant-based rental assistance, $1.9 billion above the 2020 enacted level, and $13.5 billion for project-based rental assistance. I don't understand what project-based versus tenant-based is, but apparently it's a thing. Let's see here.
Well, we should move on to the next topic here, Scott.
We promised to be brief today. So we want to give a little time to talk about the big one, the NAAR lawsuit that was filed by the Department of Justice. So this happened in November. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit and simultaneously filed a settlement agreement with NAAR regarding the claim that NAAR and some of the country's largest brokers were engaging in anti-competitive / antitrust activities. So the genesis of this began last year when the appraiser in Minnesota, Morrell, I believe his name was, Morrell versus NAAR, filed a lawsuit saying that brokers were colluding to withhold buyer representation compensation from information from the public, meaning that many brokers and agents were going around saying, well, buyer representation is free, even though there's a published compensation on MLSs, and listing brokers may or may not have been saying, hey, you need to pay, we need to set a buyer broker payout in the publishing of a listing on the MLS. In fact, many of the MLSs, which are run by local boards of realtors, said that you had to provide some level of buyer agent compensation, and some of them I think you could put 0 on there, but the idea is that sellers were being told they had to pay a buyer broker. Buyers were being told by their brokers or agents in many cases that, hey, it's free because the sellers pay my commission. Sellers weren't being given the option of paying 0. Buyer agents and brokers weren't talking to buyers saying, well, your commission's negotiable. Like, that is the key provision in antitrust, is each fee is set individually by each broker with their prospective clients. Okay. And what was being communicated according to the plaintiff is that wasn't happening. And I could tell you anecdotally, it wasn't. And I know that's not going to be a popular position to a lot of people, but I have from day one, and Jeremy, we can go back and listen to earlier versions or earlier episodes of the podcast dating back to 2019 when this came out. I've always said that I welcome the opportunity to have that discussion with a buyer and say, okay, this is what our fee is. All right. The other thing that these local MLSs were doing is they were prohibiting affiliated brokers, members of the MLS or third-party data aggregators. They were prohibiting them from publishing what the buyer broker commission amount was that was being offered. And the idea there was companies like, I don't know, say a Redfin or, name your brokerage or discount people who are willing to share in that commission. They would say, okay, say the published commission is 3%, the sale price is $300,000. That commission, buyer broker commission's $9,000. We'll give you half of that, or our fee is $5,000. Anything beyond that that's being offered, you as the buyer get to keep. Completely legal to do that if someone's a party of the transaction, and completely ethical. But the MLSs and the local boards and NAAR, I believe, and you'll have to check me on this because I don't know what NAAR's official position on this was, but I know it's evolved. They were saying you cannot publish what that dollar amount is. And I always thought that was ridiculous. I'm for transparency. Tell people what your fees are. Tell them what you're going to do to earn it, and let them make a choice. They want to go hire someone for $200 who's brand new in the business to negotiate their deal with them, or it could be someone who's 10 years in the business who charges them $500 as their representative who maybe is not busy and is all right with taking that. I think that's fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm for more transparency. I'm for competition. Always have been. And I will tell you, many brokerages are not. Now, they're not officially against competition. They'll make the donations to the charities. They'll give you the talking points. But I know firsthand that many of these brokers, they want to protect the status quo right now. And I say the best way you can protect the status quo is to provide excellent service, provide value to your clients, disclose what it is you're going to charge, and let them decide. I know many people who have no problem with me making 2-3% as their representative. None whatsoever. And I have some who would say, well, I only want you to write up the contract. What will you do that for? And those are deals I have to decide. Do I want to be involved in that because there's liability that's created just by our brokerage putting our name on the paper. So every broker needs to make that decision. What is that threshold? If you ask me point blank, what is it for me? Well, call me up and ask me, and let's sit down and tell me what you're looking for, and I'll tell you what the number is. because every situation's different. Every situation, and I'll say in a lot of cases, the sale that I've made that got me $2,000 in my career, in many cases was 10 times harder and more work and more time than the sale that got me $25,000. So, but having done this for 20 years and now having 1,500 transactions under my belt, I will tell you, I'm a much more skilled negotiator and a much more qualified representative for somebody because I've just got more experience and I can leverage that. Does that mean that every day I give my best? Some days my best is better than others. So this isn't about me, is it? It's about NAAR. So NAAR settles with the Department of Justice, and they have to repeal or change several rules that the Department of Justice deems anti-competitive. I'll just hit a couple of them. Prohibiting MLSs that are affiliated with NAAR from disclosing to prospective buyers the commission that the buyer broker will earn if a buyer purchases a home listed on a multiple list, meaning they cannot tell brokers they cannot publish that anymore. Okay, that was a rule NAR had. You can't misrepresent to buyers that your broker's services are free anymore. Enabling buyer brokers to filter MLS listings based on level of buyer broker commissions offered and to exclude homes with lower commissions from consideration by potential home buyers. Look, if you're working with someone who's doing that,
That's pretty dirty.
You're working with a first-rate douchebag. Fire that agent and work with somebody else. Limiting access to the lockboxes that provide licensed brokers with access to homes to brokers who work with NAR affiliated. Okay, so basically, in some markets, they're saying that NAR affiliated MLS brokers were limiting access to listings from licensees who maybe weren't realtors. And what a realtor is a designation. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's an affiliation of agents who decide to join a group, right? It's
a membership.
It's like a Freemason or
the Assassin's Guild.
Yeah, the Assassin's Guild. There you go. You can be a real estate licensee without being a member of the National Association of Realtors. So there is I have a real estate license, but I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors, and for that privilege, you agree to be bound by a code of ethics and pay a fee every year. Okay, and then in return, you get access to the MLS. There's more to come on this. Jeremy, you look like you have something you want to say.
I shouldn't hit the microphone during this.
Yeah, you're
just klutzing around.
You're distracting me. Just no more ads. Anyway, we're gonna deep dive this in upcoming episodes because this is important and this is gonna change how business is done. Now, how fast this is gonna happen, we're seeing it trickle through the industry right now. But stay tuned. This is a big one. And remember, folks, you heard it here first. This is the show that I believe, again, the biased facts, the little show with courage. We have been more honest and reported more fairly on this than I believe anybody else, and which will probably get banned and censored from Facebook. Anyway, so Jeremy, we've reached the part of the show today where I want you to tell me what's the most annoying thing that happened in 2020? And what is the phrase or
Jesus,
top 3 phrases that you found most annoying?
Stay safe, be safe. That's like I whenever I hear that, it feels like someone's just flicking me off.
You cringe?
I cringe. It's just cringeworthy. I'm not saying that to, obviously take away from the severity of any virus that may be inflicting people right now or their livelihood. But I'd like to think of myself as a healthy human that makes usually pretty decent choices. It just made me feel like I was in Demolition Man, and who the hell is Sylvester Stallone was not John Connor. That's Terminator. But Sandra Bullock, she'd always say these really quirky, great salutations. And it's just it just hearing "Stay Safe" made me feel like I was in a political correct future dystopian society. It just had this weird vibe to it, like this. What do you mean, stay safe? So I would say that's both 1, 2, and 3.
At times you felt a little patronized, I would imagine. And a closed circuit to my good friend Apu. It's been reported there's 2 vaccines. That was a little bit of sarcasm there. That's a little bit of tongue in cheek. Yeah, there's definitely 2 viruses, 2 vaccines. We're not going to get into the number of mutations of the virus today, but yeah, there's obviously 2 vaccines. Pfizer and Moderna are the 2 I believe that are most. There's also the names of the others that are in development. There were many companies who were doing research on a vaccine for COVID. Many companies, and we're not here to give an exhaustive list today, but yeah, that's an attempt at humor. Hopefully we don't need to point that out. That occasionally we like to have fun on this show. Is this year fun died? I've made this comment repeatedly to people, but I feel 2020 is the year joy died. Not necessarily fun, but joy. Like I see a joy deficit in people like I've never seen before. Like it's almost become look, there's a pandemic. No one's denying that. There's people who are dying. We all know, like, sadly, we know people who have died and have had, real hardship from the disease. But for some reason, like this year, like people have just stopped.
It's a whole new level.
Like the word enjoy. They stopped, when I say it, there's a joy deficit. They stopped enjoying life. And it's not everybody, of course. I mean, I'm not going to paint with that broad a brush. But I will say that I've just seen it. I've seen it with myself at times. For a time, it's maybe one of the reasons we didn't do the podcast is, I, for a long time, enjoyed the trolls. But I lost my joy of the trolls who would come for us, looking for the bunker to take us down. And rather than look for ways to regain my joy, I hid. And we're not doing that anymore. And we're going to, again, we're going to take positions that not everyone's going to agree with. But you know what? We're going to take them because it's the right thing to do is to be authentic. And I welcome those who don't agree with us or me. We don't agree every day. But I'm not going to be a phony anymore and hide from it. And you see that phoniness out there right now where people, they'd rather virtue signal than say what they actually think. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I could be wrong. You know what? I relish when I'm wrong because, I like relish. But I like hot dogs. But when you're wrong, there's an opportunity to learn. But if you never take a position and you continually are like milk toast, squishy milk toast, you
sounds nasty.
Yeah, where's the growth? Yeah, I don't want to be milk toast. Where's the growth? And it's in that.
Sounds sus.
It sounds. Oh my gosh! So word. That is one of the phrases.
Okay, that might be number 3.
That.
Are you sus?
That's Among Us.
I'm gonna agree with that. It's just the level, the lack of self-awareness of some people this year is insane. I mean, I went to a mall a few days ago, and it's the 23rd of December, so there's still 17 hours left that I can do my Christmas shopping. So I was ahead of the game, but so one of my pets a few years ago may have bitten up some undergarments of a heterosexual committed life partner of mine, and she'll never listen to this podcast, so whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, it would be funny to get a gift card at said store and have it gifted to her from that said pet. I just like it's Titus the dog, but in front of line in front
You
of
have
the
a dog?
like 5 years ago. He pursued an acting career in New York. 7 years ago. 7 years ago. God, I wonder if he's still alive. I should ask. Obviously, he was not a member of our family. It was just a pet. But anyway, this chick in front of me in the line, she was just chewing out the cashier at the store and just going off about her touching how she was touching the thing she was purchasing and how far the mask was on. I'm like, and it was probably the first time I had been in a mall in 8 or 9 months, not because of fearfulness, but just I just have no desire to go into a mall. I just wanted to say, lady, you're in the middle of a pandemic. What the hell are you doing in a mall?
Well, if it's that bothersome to you, don't go to the mall. Like,
right.
You can do curbside checkup.
And second of all, it's probably a little bit more difficult for this cashier to be in this situation than it is you.
She's making $12 an hour out there working her butt off. I mean, you talk about frontline workers. I always say, what about the cashiers?
Yeah, I mean,
what about the guy stocking shelves or girl, What about the truck driver, the farmer, the people working in the meat packing plant who don't have the luxury of staying home in their basement, right?
Right. They can't work from home.
They don't have
taking
the luxury.
your credit card at the mall.
There's nothing more despicable to me than someone who does that, and I made a point yesterday, and I'm making a point to have some fun with people in when I'm getting groceries. Be nice to them. Inject some levity, Apu. That's what some of this is, levity, and being able to bring joy back to people. Look, it's been a shitty year for a lot of people.
Exactly. It's like, if I could tell her the dog eating the underwear story before I check out, maybe it would bring a smile and she could tell that story to someone else. Or Jesus, I was buying some really weird soap at a grocery store probably about a month ago. Local grocery store. Buy local. But the cashier's like, what the hell is this? I showed her the Dr. Squatch commercial and just had her laughing her ass off in the middle of a grocery store. I mean, she pulled out her own phone and pulled up YouTube, and I was showing her these commercials. Like, life is too damn short. 2020 for a lot of people sucked. Yeah, there's a lot of people that died that shouldn't have. It sucks.
Right.
But for the people that are still alive, it does no good for you to live miserably. It does no good. Find some happiness in your life. Share that with your friends and family however you can. Because who knows? Every one of our days are numbered. And to virtue signal and try to make life more miserable than it could be for others is just not the right way to do it.
Right. I agree. And trust me, I haven't been perfect. This is a daily battle. You go to war. The battle begins anew every day, and the first battle is yourself. And I have done many things in my life I am ashamed of, not proud of. Things this year where I have been tested and failed, but the challenge is to move forward and start with today. Just say thank you to somebody, say something nice, put a little heart emoji on someone's Facebook, do something nice. You don't, start it somewhere and try to bring your own joy back, because that's contagious.
Attitude is contagious.
It really is. And I have, I still got a brain tumor, but I've gone to work every day this year. Every day.
Yeah, I mean, I could just still think of growing up being knee deep in shit.
Yeah, literally.
In a shit spreader.
Literally.
And actually having a pretty good time doing it. And it's like, well, if some of these people with just shit ass attitudes that I run into every day, I don't count, like, it's just brush it off, but it's like, there are people out there that really are having a hard time.
And there's people out there that have nobody right now, who are lonely. If they're in the hospital, they're in nursing homes. There are people who really don't have hope. Like, reach out, try to find someone. You can set there. There's what we got to do. The challenge for our next episode is to give a few resources for that, where people can send letters, reach out to elderly, children. I mean, there's so many things. You go whatever your search engine of choice is.
Yeah, community Facebook pages even. I know in Becker there's it's over now, but throughout the month of November and half of December you could adopt another family. Okay, we're not flyover country anymore. I'm from Becker.
You're in the bunker. There's a bunker in Becker.
But you could adopt a family, and that family would give you their Christmas wish, and you can adopt them, and basically check off the boxes, buy them everything they need, and there you go. You've got a Christmas too. There's no reason to, no shame. It sucks for some people, and it doesn't suck for others, and it's just.
It doesn't need to be much. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. A little bit of time, and a gesture, a handwritten note. These are all things you can do to make someone else's day brighter, and you don't know how that's going to snowball. Speaking of it snowing. But you don't know how that's going to snowball and change their life, and how that might impact other people's lives. So, boy, we could go on. Well, we will go on. Thank you, Jeremy. You're going to show what a mess that chair is there with all my crap piled on
whoops.
it. Anyway, I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. To the trolls out there, please comment. We want as many trolls as possible to out themselves, so that we could find them and give them a hug, because there's no bane to troll like a hug. That is the number one troll's bane you can give, is joy, hugs, and happiness.
And to those that don't celebrate Christmas, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. It will be on Christmas.
Oh, Christmas. That's true. Yeah. Or, happy Hanukkah. Whatever, we
happy
are
holidays.
Equal opportunity celebrators here of any holiday out there. Correct?
True. I love every holiday.
If you have a holiday you're celebrating, whether it's now or later in the year,
Foosball Friday,
let us know.
It's also on Christmas.
We'll give it a shout out.
Awesome.
So anyway, with that, I'm Scott McCark. This has been the Real Estate World Podcast. We're back, and we're not going away again. So if you don't like the content of this podcast, please unfriend me now. No, we're not going to make any bold proclamations like that, because we're cowards. Jeremy, anything to add?
No, it was, I thought it was a great year. I'm alive. It's a lot of shit that happened, but that which does not kill you only makes you stronger.
Well, I think of a quote all the time that I saw on my friend Laura's Facebook page. It's from J.K. Rowling. It's actually on my.
I saw that.
Yeah, rock bottom became the solid foundation upon which I rebuilt my life. J.K. Rowling. And trust me, I say that to myself a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, she was a nobody until 42 or 45.
Well, it took her forever,
she
didn't
started releasing those books. So,
all right, we're going to get off on a tangent. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And God bless everyone. And as always, keep tuning in. We appreciate all of our listeners, and glad we're back.